Here we go. Take us away, AJ.
All right. Hi everyone. So good to see all of you. Sorry I can't be seen. I'll ship you all like a postcard image of me or something. We'll stick that up next time. I am here to be the master of ceremonies, and I don't know what I'm doing exactly this morning, but we'll figure it out together. Are we gonna start with demos today, Andrew? Or are we gonna do? Should we do that?
Yeah. Let's start with demos for sure.
Cool. I would love that. Which team would like to go first? Because if not, I will pick one.
I'm fine with going first. There's a lot going on with our story and some updates, so I'd be excited.
I would love that.
Give you guys insight.
Take it away.
Hold on.
So Devon's going to kind of talk us through the story and all of the AC, and then I can share a screen and show kind of what we did in the code base.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah. All right, guys, let me share my screen and I'll take you through the AC first, and then we'll go to, I guess, do you want to talk about the pull request? Or you want to?
Yeah, I think after you go through the AC, I'll just talk through like everything that we added in.
Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. That is not the screen I wanted. Come on. Okay, there we are. All right, so our AC was to render pins from a nearby API, or nearby in quotations. So we did not know what we were doing as it goes, at least initially. And so, but we figured it out. So the general, what we had here, we had to access Wikipedia's nearby API. So, and then via a proxy endpoint to get around cores. And we had that wonderful cores, I guess, talk demonstration, because yeah, I'm not familiar with cores, but now it's a bit more familiar. So we had our acceptance criteria. The main point was to, when the app starts, a call should be made to the proxy endpoint using the latitude, longitude at the center of the map. So we had to create a pin of a 24 by 24 pixel size. Let's see, pin should be scaled down. And I guess, I don't know, it's a lot. This is one of those things where it's a lot easier to show. So I guess we can switch over to Shayne.
Cool.
And let me stop sharing.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Sorry, this thing's like in the way. I'm trying to like.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the app as it appears on the deploy production site. So essentially last week, we were just like rendering the map at a specific coordinate with like those coordinates being like the center of the map. And then this week, what you see is that we have pins rendering for any locations that were returned from our API call, with pins that have like images associated with them, being populated with that image, and then a default icon for anything that like did not have an image filled out. And so the majority of our work was in the app map and location pin JS files. To that first AC like criteria point of like making a call to the API through the proxy endpoint, that's essentially what we have set up on line 13. So like this is the URL that we're using to make that endpoint, and we pretty much got this from like the GitHub section that was kind of explaining what that PHP file looks like, and kind of like the data you would get back from the API. So essentially making a call to that endpoint with like the latitude and longitude that you specify. We're using state here, and I guess I'll explain that as we go through this kind of like fetch code block down here. So we're using use effect just to make sure that our API call is being made like once the page is loaded, and then using the fetch API just so that we can get back some clean like request and response bodies. So we're making a fetch call to that URL that we specified on line 13, and then taking that response and having it returned as JSON. then we're taking that JSON and like setting it to a variable, and then setting that variable to state on line 22. So it gets set up here. Essentially, it returns like a large array. So we just have the default set up as a large array. But if you go and check like your components in DevTools, you kind of see like what you get back. So right now it's giving us 6 locations, and it's populating those locations on the screen based on what we set up in the map.js file. So in the map.js file, there were a couple things we had to add. These initial Google Map React props we had set up last week, so lines 20 through 22, but we needed to include this, yes, I want to use Google Map API internals prop on line 23. And then essentially what we kind of came to understand from looking at the documentation and also a few Stack Overflow articles is that with Google Map React, any children that are passed along a latitude and longitude prop will essentially be rendered on the map in those exact locations. So what we're doing here in the app.js file on line 31, we've passed down these 6 locations that we've saved into state as a prop called locations to the map component. And then within the map component, using like a guard operator here, just to make sure that this component like has those locations loaded before it then tries to map through them. And then essentially we have a ternary setup that is checking each like location response that it's mapping through and seeing if the thumbnail property is defined or undefined. If it's undefined, we're rendering this kind of default location icon pin. And this is actually imported from a separate like icon library called Iconify. I'm sure we can use like other libraries or like just import SVGs, but it just seemed like it works most efficiently when you're like using React components. So I thought it might be helpful to use that there. So essentially it's saying like if this thumbnail property is undefined, essentially in these last 3 responses, that's the case. So you'll see there's no kind of like thumbnail property, but up here, like for 2, you have a thumbnail. So if it doesn't have a thumbnail, essentially it's going to render this icon at this latitude and longitude. And we're kind of like traversing into that object again to get the exact latitude and longitude of each location. And then just setting it with a height and width as per the documentation of this specific Iconify library. And then to end kind of like this ternary statement, it's like, so if it is defined, then it would render the location pin component, also passing along latitude and longitude. I'm just looking at this, and line 40 text probably doesn't need to be there. I don't think we're including text on the map, so that maybe can be updated. The location pin icon is essentially just a div within a div. The back div is kind of like got border radius on 3 sides, and then it's like rotated to like imitate the appearance of a pin, and then it has like the fill of the image that we're passing it as a prop. I don't know if there's like a more efficient way. I couldn't find any other methods for kind of like using an icon and filling it with an image. So this is, I don't know if this is like the best way to do it, filling a div with a div and kind of like shifting it. But that's essentially what's happening.
Yeah,
So
it's a pretty clever solution. I like it.
Yeah, I noticed your comment about like we can make the pins of similar sizes. I think like with this workaround, it's either with the workaround or with the Iconify library, like something's not exactly lining up, because we do specify like that this is 24 pixels, and we specify that this is 24 pixels as well. So like maybe this one needs to be scaled up a little bit if that's the case. Yeah, but essentially it's just a div in the background with a relative position with border radius on 3 sides, rotated -45 degrees with the overflow hidden. So it's like cutting off anything inside that would like go outside of those bounds. And then the inside div is positioned absolute and just kind of like moved around a bit with the left and bottom parameters to like fit perfectly within that larger div with a background that's set to cover the entire div.
And then you rotate the image back the other direction to make it be correct, right? That's
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, because it was like all tilted at one point, so it was a bit funky. But
I have a couple questions. I can't remember what my question was on app.js, but could you go back to that?
Yep.
Maybe I can figure it out. Let's see. Well, one thing, I guess I didn't catch this in code review, but I guess I would have expected, instead of just having that URL hard coded to that Latin long, that it would use the same center that the map is using. You know what I mean? It would construct the URL.
Yeah, I think we can probably use like template literals to just put these in here.
But does app.js probably doesn't have this information? Like you would need to somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I think we could move this up to app.js and like maybe pass it down to this one instead. But I just hard coded like the same ones for the time.
Yeah. But there was something else. What was it? Response to query.pages. I guess so even if like you're out in the middle of the ocean or something, there's still an array at response.query.pages. Is that true?
We can check what the response. I found like coordinates for like the middle of the ocean, and I didn't break, but it definitely could be. Let's see what we get back actually. Oh, sorry, you have to change it in this one to the point you were just making. It's actually taking the center of the map coordinates from here. The API call is then like a separate hard-coded latitude and longitude. So it looks like you just don't get anything back. But
state is set to the whatever is at that location. So the fact that it doesn't error out means that it must be there. Like it's not setting state to undefined or something like that. Like it's setting it to an array, right? So it must be. I think that must be correct. I mean, you could also check the network tab and see what the API actually returned. Somewhere. I think you could filter on like Segdaha maybe or something.
On which one?
On the domain name, maybe you could. So the filter thing up below the red dot there.
Oh.
Yeah, you could type into there and. Yeah, there we go. And see what the response is. The response data. Okay, maybe this. All right. Or we could just do a console log at that point. But anyway, it all seems to be working without errors. So I guess it's probably correct.
I think the 400 response one, there was a double negative on the 30. Maybe that one ran when you.
Oh yeah, good call.
Had the double negative. Yeah.
When it was hard coded, you mean?
Or yeah, as I was updating, there was a double negative for this one.
You save as you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's completely true limits.
So probably.
Maybe we could just like console log the.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean,
Can I read pages of undefined?
Oh, okay. So there is an error there. So yeah. So we might want to like let pages equal response.query.pages or an empty array or something like that. You know. And then what was the other thing I was going to ask about?
If you console log the response.json, what do we get? Is it just undefined?
Or even just in the line 21, like the response, and just see what it contains, right? Oh, put it above the line before it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't contain a query.pages object. So, but I think that that fix on line 22. Well, oh no, query is not there either. So that's why it's still throwing an error. So yeah, I guess you'd need to, I mean, we'll do this maybe as a separate thing, but we probably need to test for the presence of query and then the presence of pages on query in order to set that without throwing any errors. I'm not sure why I didn't notice that.
Could there be a response.query without response query pages?
Or can we just do like, we have like
Yeah.
let pages, if is there a response, let it equal response like query.pages, like if there's not, like the empty array.
Well, we're getting a response even out there, but not
From, I
query.
guess, response.query then, if that
Yeah,
would-
it's like a ternary there.
yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that would do it. Shouldn't get any errors then.
There we go.
Cool. All right.
Sweet.
All right, nice. It's exciting to see pins on the map.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I forget what that location was that was in here before.
Oh, it's 45 for the lat and -123.456 for the.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I've always liked about, like when you drive down I-5 in Oregon, there's a road sign that says you're now crossing the 45th parallel.
That's cool.
So it always kind of sticks in my mind.
So that was the majority of the things we changed. Very quickly, I had like made a commit to main earlier today because I noticed that when we tried to merge our branch, it seemed like the API call was like in a loop, like it was probably being called and then like a component was re-rendering and then it was calling again and then re-rendering again. And so it was like never ending. And so I essentially on line 25 just added that like empty array dependency so that it would perform like component did mount and just do it like on the first loading of the component. I think like down the line, maybe there's probably like a variable or like something that might change that we want it to like update on, but just for the time being. Let me see if it'll do it again so I can kind of like. Okay, so like if you look here, yeah, the requests are just like going nonstop. And correct me if I'm wrong, based on what I looked at in the docs in Stack Overflow, it seems to me like it is making this API call and then like loading components based off of it. And then because the components are like re-rendering, like it's making the API call again. Or like something else is on the page is re-rendering and making the call again.
Yeah,
I have a thought about this actually, because there's something that I should have set up for the repo that would have caught this. The ESLint settings that we have should yell at you about not using a dependency array. So this is something that I need to fix because it should have been in there to tell you that it wants you to always have an array of some kind for those hooks.
That's cool.
I will double check. So thank you for letting me know that that exists.
But yeah, you're right, Shayne. So yeah, the use effect is updating the page, and because the page is updated, it calls the use effect again, right? So it just gets it in a loop. This is just the more modern way of creating an infinite loop. Like 1998, I brought down our company servers by doing an infinite loop a different way. So it's just a perennial problem for programmers.
So that's the bulk of what we did, or pretty much everything that we did this week. I think like following up, it sounds like we should maybe like move some of these up into app and then pass them down. And I just would want to check in on like how we would want to go about doing that.
And maybe the other way you could do it is to abstract out the responsibility. Like you had an API.js file,
Yeah.
like take all this stuff and move it out to another file that you could then import, you know, into the map or something. Because the responsibility for knowing like where the map is centered should probably live with the map component.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to be at like global app state level. I mean,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Y'all did a lot of work this week.
Yeah. It's pretty serious.
Yeah, looks good.
Thanks.
One thing, I don't know, do you have changes on here that you're going to be pushing up?
I guess I do now based on this thing I just typed in. Should I be-
I think Andrew mentioned this last week, and maybe we can just make a quick update right now, or I don't know if this decision will be later, but on the Zoom level, I know it's set to 8 right now and it's zoomed kind of far out. Do we want to?
Yeah,
JS.
Yeah, I'm for that change.
Oh yeah.
Pretty simple.
Do you want to try 10 and see where that goes?
Yeah, it's already better.
Yeah, I think that feels better. I mean, let me know what you guys think. But yeah, it did feel a bit far out, and the pins are like kind of small, so it was like looking a little empty.
You want to try 11?
Yeah. So what should we be going for? Like if there were a lot more pins, would we want it to? I think we kind of want the pins to sort of go a little bit over the boundary of the map, so it feels like there are pins everywhere, you know. And if you start, you know, we'll be dragging, like making it so you can drag the map around, and then pins would sort of populate as you go, and it would always seem like there's like this, like it would kind of encourage exploring maybe or something to have pins that kind of just overlap the boundary. So whatever that is, it's hard to tell with this few pins.
Yeah.
Maybe like a 12? You want to see a street name?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think already we have one that's outside that you can't see at all, right?
Right.
This is also a little funky. The click space on the dash button just at the top of it.
The components at the bottom are overlapping that zoom out.
That control, yeah.
Yeah.
Good call. So the map probably needs to just live like above the nav.
Above the nav, heard.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can, you know, this number is easily changed, so we can stick with 11 or 12 for now, and then dial it in as we have the ability to like sort of see places that have more pins in one place.
Cool.
So you need a semicolon on your, if I think back in app.js, maybe, where you did the that ternary and stuff, semicolon on the end of that line. But then if everybody's okay with it, we could probably just, on line 21, semicolon at the end.
Oh, thank you.
How does it not yell at you for that?
It doesn't yell at me for semicolons, but if you hit like Control Save manually, it'll like put them all in.
Oh, okay. And if everybody's okay with this, we could probably just commit this. Does anybody have any objection to that? Would we want like a PR just for the history of why we made this change? Or?
Yeah.
I think this is good.
It's good.
Are you okay? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Cool. We have to start calling this part of the meeting demo and mob program. It's 2 weeks in a row, right?
Kind of enjoy the mob programming personally. I learn all sorts of things.
Cool. All right, nice job. Nice work.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for all the comments and feedback, honestly. It was really helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you guys did a great job like parsing out all that data.
It was very fun to watch. Thank you. That leaves the other team then. What did y'all do?
Okay, Caitlin, did you want to start with the
Yeah.
issue?
So, this week we just did the update app details. Our goal was to basically make it happy on a mobile device, be able to add the app to your home screen as like a native app, which we talked about, that we're all very impressed that you can do that. So we basically just went and updated some of the metadata, the theme color, the description. We kind of went back and forth on colors in like the chat and ultimately decided as a group that we'll just kind of pick colors later. So we went with grayscale, figured out the name, and looked around for an icon and got that loaded on. So pretty simple. Rachel and I were both had a lot going on this week, so we decided not to grab another task, but this was fun because I had never actually kind of messed with this stuff before. So Rachel, you want to show off what we got?
Yeah, definitely. So again, we were in the index HTML manifest JSON, and we learned a lot about, well, I learned a lot about just different sizes. Okay, let me share some things. All right, so right now as it stands, I was just looking at Econify, what their design would be, Shayne, now that we have the library in, and I thought maybe, side note, that we could use one of their compasses so it would be more uniform. Just an idea while you were talking about that. So we can think about that later. All right, so right now the name we have is Explore Your World. And as you see, if you click here, it says Explore Your World. You can see our compass icon. And then, okay, so this is, it comes up like this in your app, this is in my iPhone right now, all the other things. So you can see it says Explore Your World. You see the icon. You guys can see my whole screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, sorry, this is Caitlin Eyes. And then this is what it looks like right now as an app. So the thing is initially we picked the compass that was just black and white or black and clear. And then when I loaded it to app iOS, it was a black square. And I was very confused because when you clicked on it, you could see the compass for like a second. And so I did a little Stack Overflow digging and found that iOS, like this might not be an Android problem, but iOS basically has a transparent turn to black. So I just changed so I'll go through the code in a second, but what I did to see if it shows up is I changed all the icons to a gray background. But I think it's a little dark, so I'm fine with changing it to a lighter gray. I just wanted to make sure that it showed up and that we were doing everything right. And it does. So if you add it to your home screen, that's what it's going to look like right now. And that's kind of the icon we picked. Yeah, and so then our code, hold on. Where are you? Okay. So,
Rachel, I couldn't help but notice your 44,000 unread.
oh yeah, I know. It's crazy. I know. It's so funny because I keep certain things really clean. Like my text messages are clean and like a few other things, but my email and my voicemails, it's just a mess. Okay. So what right now you're going to have in your public folder is you have the 5x12 by 512 PNG. The 192, these are pixels, they're squares, the 192 PNG. This is what the Apple grabs is the 192, which you'll see is in the index. We made the Fava icon ICO, which I actually didn't realize had to be 64 times 64 smaller. Andrew let us know. He sent some information on that. And so now this is 64 by 64. I also included just a link to an SVG if we want to use that later. So in the index, some of the stuff that we changed, we added a theme color, which is just a gray. As you see, like this links, the icon links to the Fava fave icon. I always say that wrong. And then the Apple Touch icon links to the 192. And then the manifest links to the manifest JSON. And so we were able to change that. I don't think either of us had done that. In the AC or in the Jira board, there's also an article or that links to manifest JSON and all the different stuff, the docs. So that was helpful to look at and kind of figure out what this file was. Again, this was new for Caitlin and I. And so we made a short name Explore Your World, the name Explore Your World, and then it links to all these and the sizes. Yeah, and that, I mean, again, I would be open to changing it to a lighter gray background. That was kind of a last minute because it didn't deploy the way we wanted to with the transparent background. And I think that's it. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. Oh, sorry, did I just cut somebody off?
No, go for it.
It looks really good, and I was curious. Could you, the theme color, is that the background color, or is that?
No, the background color I picked was, and it can change it, was just like 80, 80, 80, 80. Again, this was like done last night, and I was just trying to make sure it, I thought that looked good initially, but there are a few other gray colors I think we can look at. I mean, it can be more consistent. Sorry. I can try that for the background too, or we can.
Oh yeah, no, I think the color looks fine, but I guess I'm asking, like, what does the theme color property, where does that live?
I think the theme color lives in like a splash screen. Is that what that is?
Yeah, so it's like if you open like Twitter, and before Twitter actually loads, it's just like a blue screen with a little tweet bird on it. So that's like the theme color is that back splash kind of. I kind of feel like if we're going to change the colors in a couple weeks, then we can kind of leave it for now and then go back and nitpick.
Okay.
What colors we really want later.
Yeah, and just really quickly, the all right, so right now explore. No, I don't have that. That manifest JSON, hold on, is actually like, it's pretty helpful. That link that Andrew had included, and it explains, yeah. So it explains all the stuff and like what the theme color is versus the background color. Oh, the background color.
Background. We got it.
And the theme color is the status bar.
So like the little bar at the top of like iOS, where it has like your Wi-Fi strength and all kind of stuff, you could actually affect that with the theme color.
Yeah, so that was really helpful to see all those fields and to kind of just see how,
I think there's also a way on iOS it's not in the manifest JSON by default, but I think there's a way, and maybe it's a link tag in the head or something, but you can actually set an image, a PNG, to be used as that splash screen. So like the Twitter app, like you're talking about, it's not just blue, it's blue with a little white icon in the middle. And that's actually a PNG that they say, show this PNG while the app is loading in the background. So there are a bunch of techniques you can use to kind of just make it more kind of polished and professional. Oh.
Cats?
Yeah, it's slow. But
you were showing the Twitter app loading?
This is actually my app.
Oh, your app.
Oh, nice.
But I think it's doing it too fast now because I've loaded it a couple times. But it does show up that because my background is just white, so it shows up white screen with my little logo, and then it loads.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I had the same problem. I was like, oh, clear background, can't see it. Where'd my icon go?
Right. Yeah, and I guess, again, when we pick the overall themes, we can change the colors. And then another idea too is like, and I just thought of that when Shayne was talking about that library because it's already loaded. Like these are some of the compass is in that library. So it might be a better fit for if we're using the pins. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Anyone else? Can I stop sharing? Any questions? There we go.
Cool. Good stuff.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Nicely done. I like learning about the weirdness with the transparent icons. I didn't know that, so I learned something this week. And next we are doing, I'll learn the order of these meetings eventually, Andrew, I promise. Maybe for my last one. What's up next?
We're gonna do our retro. So
yes,
I can start sharing. I'm gonna put a link in the Zoom chat, and I'll put it in our team channel too. So it's so you don't have to create an account on this on Mural. You can just enter as a guest. But that's where we're going to do our retro. So I sent around this article beforehand about stop the line retros. So we're doing Kanban, right? So Kanban, as I think we talked about, it kind of came out of manufacturing. So there's this concept of Ali caught on to the whole concept of an andon. So that's just sort of like telling the status of, red, orange, green, blue for a production line, for an assembly line, where red is like stop, there's a problem, like we're causing major defects or something we need to fix. I'm not sure what the orange means exactly, but like maybe there's a problem, but maybe it doesn't rise to the level of stopping the line. Green is everything's fine, and blue is needs material. So on a you can imagine on an assembly line, we don't have enough tires to put on the cars or whatever. So that's a different type of problem. So how this all relates to Agile is, as a team, we're doing work, and especially if this was a sort of a production app that users were, end users were using, there might be times when we need to like stop everything, and the team needs to focus on fixing a problem before we continue. Just like adding to the problem. My team at Zapier has been in this situation where it's like, this thing is not working. We should not keep adding more commits to this thing that's broken until we fix the thing, right? We actually just went through this recently. So I created I'm not sharing my whole screen, but I created in our Slack team, I set up a Zap that watches for the andon react-G, or emoji. When you use an emoji to trigger something happening, it's called a react-G. So when you throw the andon react-G on a message in Slack, basically it sends out a message to everybody saying, we need to stop the line. The team needs to focus on this until we get it fixed, and then we can continue, get back on track. So we now have an andon, right? So we have a way to, in an actual factory, it's, it could be a button, or like sometimes it's a rope that you pull, it's tied to a bell or something like that. But it's something like getting everyone's attention, saying like, okay, everybody stop what you're doing. Let's fix this problem first. So we have that now in the channel. So, I asked everybody to kind of come up with maybe one or two things that you've noticed over the first 2 weeks that were kind of problems that we can. It can be anything. It can be big or small. Like this is just kind of to get us used to the concept of what these things could be. So we'll take a couple minutes, and everyone you can grab stickies off of here and drag them onto the canvas and type in the one or two things that you notice that could be improved. Any shape, any color. We'll put them. Maybe not on top of the instructions. So I don't know who anonymous. Oh, Rachel. Yeah. But yeah, we'll just add your cards. We'll take a couple minutes to do that. Then if there are themes, if multiple people are saying the same thing, we can group those. We'll go through a little voting process and then decide, one or two things that we want to, decide on one thing that we want to fix and how to fix it. So yeah, so go ahead and do that. I will actually stop sharing while I type, because you can never type on sharing. I'm actually gonna choose a different color for my own card too. At work, I'm always black. I don't know why. And just the colors don't mean anything. We're just grab whatever color you want. Just the color can match your personality, which is why I chose black. I don't know.
Got it. And a sticky note.
I'm trying to move mine. It's blocking someone and I can't figure out how to move it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so sorry. Can this yellow one move? What is happening?
If you click on the thing, there's a move square up at the top left.
Oh.
Yeah, I was trying to do that. Oh, there we go. Thanks, y'all. This the only other time I've used Mural. It was like I was doing like what are those a civic tech type group meetup I was doing. It was the same thing. I couldn't figure out how to move my sticky notes, and I was like, sorry guys.
I guess in the chat, maybe just say, if you're done, just put a done in the chat. Ali, I second your sentiment there.
I just wanted to throw that out there because as we point out the things we're struggling with, I like to remind ourselves what else we're struggling with. Okay, I am good.
I see, Rachel, you are taking initiative.
I was trying to thinking because that's how I've always used Mural before. You just start grouping, and then I realized that we should talk.
Oh no, I think it's fine. I mean, we can, if you group things, and if anybody disagrees, we can change it. But I think this one actually kind of fits with this one to me. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
PRs. These are all about PRs, but I think they're like, this is maybe a separate issue from these two. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I feel like this one should just be at the center and like really big. So double pins. Okay. Yeah, these two are kind of related, I think. All right, cool. So we don't need this blue guy anymore. Is that right? Okay, so we'll do a little voting session. Vote on, like, let's see. I guess what I'm trying to say, don't vote on the one that's behind back. Vote on the one that's in front, so that we don't split the votes. If you know what I mean. Like, these things are these are, they're grouped. Actually, I wonder, maybe I can just group them. Can I group them? No, let me group them. All right. So anyway, so just vote on the sticky note that's in front. Is that clear?
You vote by adding icons, or?
No, sorry. I'll do an actual voting session here. Okay. Which means I'll start the voting session, and then I'll stop sharing so you don't see what I vote for.
Sorry, when you say vote, like we're voting on what we want to discuss first, or?
Yeah. So the things that get the most votes, we'll discuss the maybe top 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 vote getters, and then out of those, we'll pick one that we want to actually kind of focus on and fix. So I think there's not a ton of issues, so I'm only going to give everybody 2 votes, if that's okay. And then name your session. I need to name it, I think. So now I'll hit begin voting, and then you click on a card to add a vote. But if you accidentally click on the wrong one, you can shift click to remove the vote. Okay, and all the voting is anonymous. So here we go. In this case, I don't need you to say when you're done, because I can click on the little 7 people are voting thing, see how many votes are left. Couple votes out there. Okay, EJ, we're just waiting on your votes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure really if I should vote since I haven't had much involvement. I don't want to skew any of the decisions that are made here because I don't want to, just throw my weight in. And
Oh no, I mean, you could, based on the cards, you could see what you think are interesting topics. It's fine.
I like all of them. I don't want to pick a favorite child. Really.
So close. I think, Devon, you have one vote left. Okay. Are you gonna use it, or are you?
Oh, I
still
thought
reading?
I used it.
Oh, it says you have one left.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I thought I clicked on it. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. All right, so I'll share my screen again. There's gotta be a better way than this back and forth of sharing, not sharing, sharing, not sharing. Okay, so it's pretty clear what we should talk about. There's these two. There's one that has 5 votes, one that has 4 votes. So do we want to open PRs at the beginning of the week or only when work is done? Is one of them, and that was paired with. I hope I can get back to the results. Okay, cool. It shows the votes. That was paired with this. Oh, there was even a vote on that one. So that's really on the pink one. PRs towards the very end of the week and the evenings are difficult for me to review. Would love to see them earlier. So this actually, to me, this is sort of related to this stuff. Does that make sense to people? Like it has to do with sort of the pace. Like when can we expect PRs to be posted, and should that be coupled with these weekly syncs and all that kind of thing. So do people have, I guess, so do we want to consider, like maybe we should have grouped them all together, but do we want to consider those related, or are they different enough that we should discuss them separately?
I thought they were part of kind of like the same conversation, because I think my response to that initial blue card of like, do we want to open PRs at the beginning of the week? I think it makes most sense when it's done, and then also like tag people when it's done, and then you let them know to review it.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, like in response to that pink one behind it, like I think with the cadence being like Kanban instead of Scrum, it's like I think the PR could kind of come whenever, and then like the demo would just shift according to when it gets finished,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
my other thought was, would you want to create draft PRs?
Yeah, that would be good.
So I think I wrote the blue card and I got confused this week. And I know that I'm pretty sure somewhere in the documentation it says to like kind of open a PR at the beginning and then you can like add to it. But like I went in and I was like, oh, there's a PR. I'm going to write some comments. And I was like, it's not done yet. So for some reason for me, I just got confused and I wasn't sure if other folks did. So either whatever we decide to do, I'm fine with. I know I wanted some clarity so that
Okay.
I'm not like commenting on stuff that people are like, I know we're working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it didn't come up like that, but I agree. I think
No.
I think it makes the most sense to like start it, the PR, like when it's as close to being done as it can be. Because I think like I saw some of the comments that you guys had written, and I felt bad that you had spent time looking at it, because it was like that was like a night where we were like, okay, we're gonna come back to it again tomorrow to like actually finish it. So like a lot of that stuff did change, and I think it will probably take time.
Can we use draft PRs to signify that like this isn't ready for review? Is everyone comfortable doing that?
I just want to say the way our workflow is set up right now, I made a draft PR that I thought was just going to be between Caitlin and I, because, you know, we had a lot of async because we both had busy weeks, and it automatically showed up in the Slack. And I don't know if there's a way to maybe have the draft PR, because then when I think that was confusing too. I don't know what other people think, but if we want the draft PRs to automatically show up in Slack, or if we want just the final or an update to show up.
I love your draft PR because it meant I could go take a look at what you were doing without commenting, you know, without getting in your way. But it means that when it would come to me doing a review, I can do that sort of that much faster. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Maybe it'd be easier if like you'd make the draft PR and it shows up in Slack, but like for our knowledge, you don't need to review it until you're like tagged on it and like called to like directly review it. Because I think that's what is confusing. It looks very official when it like comes into Slack like that and says like the checks have passed or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't even say it's draft anywhere. I'm looking at it now.
I was just going to look too to see if it.
I wonder if there's a way with that GitHub app that we could have it say draft, or even just us like in the name, right? If we're changing to have better PR names anyways, it could be like draft for its name.
Yeah, you could totally do that. You could have draft at the beginning of it, and that would make it more clear.
And then and then we could address that other issue at the same time of PR names being more descriptive. It could be like
yeah. The GitHub integration, I don't think gives that kind of control. Like you basically like subscribe to whatever's going on in the repo. We could do a more custom thing like with a Zap or something if we wanted to, but yeah, I agree with Ali that like it's nice to see the PRs coming in or like get created, and so you know I can kind of dip in there whenever and just like pay attention to like see how progress is going. But it sounds like what we want to avoid is, well, just, you know, churn from people kind of like reviewing stuff before it's ready, right? So this convention of like when you're tagged in on Slack, then that's like the official like, hey, it's ready kind of signal. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also, you know, you can request reviewers in GitHub, but I know GitHub notifications are worthless to me. Like it's like I'm only gonna notice it when I'm tagged in on Slack. Okay. Is there anything else about this topic that we should talk about, or is that kind of?
Well, I feel like the pink one behind it, and Shayne kind of touched on this, was that like I definitely feel stuck in a mindset of like a Scrum cadence, and so yeah, like last night having a PR come up, I was like out and about and didn't get home till late, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to get this done by our meeting in the morning, but then maybe being like, well, that's fine, like even if like that PR hadn't been approved or like fully done yet, like you could still like show the work as it stands and it can roll next week.
Yeah. So one of the goals of having, you know, we have the two pairs and having, you know, one pair review the other pair's work is before the mentors do or whatever, is just that we want to make sure everybody understands the state of the app at all times, right? And reviewing the PR is a very effective way to do that. It's not the only way to do that. Like demos are another way, right? Like if we, you know, like today's demos, I think were really thorough, and I think, you know, there was probably enough information for everyone to see like, oh, okay, I understand like, how to make changes in the manifest now, even though I didn't do that work, or I fully understand, how we're making these API requests. So if we're comfortable with the demos being the place where we share that knowledge, the PRs, we could be a little more, we could take a different approach, I guess, with the PR reviews where, you just need any 2 people within the group to approve or something like, we could make some other rule just to make sure you have eyes on it, but we don't have to be so strict about having like both people from the other pair have to review every PR from the other pair and all that stuff, especially if issues are stretching past multiple weeks, then who really does need to review it, right? Like it's one person worked on it for the first half and then like, like it gets a lot more muddled. Is that something, would that solve the problem? Is that something people are comfortable with?
You mean just having any 2 people review it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be honest, it's like, where we'll review it and see if there's any kind of, I guess, more high level changes for most of us, because we're kind of just looking at it, and honestly, I know for me, we're kind of waiting for Andrew's like Andrew's input, and it's like, okay, we need to change stuff and blah blah blah, and I think your perspective is definitely needed, and so, but also I think it's just different. Like we're looking at it and like, oh, okay, this is good, and maybe there will be some minor changes, but then you're like the, I guess I'd say, not to, I know the class reference is easier, but like the teacher, and you're coming through with the red marker and be like, yeah, da 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 da. And so I think that's, at least that's the way I've seen it in the approach. So I don't know. Like
so what I'm hearing out of that is maybe what the rule is really is that one other developer and one of the mentors reviews, not just any 2 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would that kind of give us the right level of confidence?
I think it would help, because I think what we're looking for is any issues or anything that needs to be changed. And so if you have 2 sets of eyes, basically, that's like, no matter where it is, I think honestly, it's like if it's not completely finished and there's some things that need to be changed, it's like fine, or if it's done, it's done, and you can change it. So that's what I'm thinking.
Another just general overall question about, because we're doing it not Scrum, we're doing it with the multiple issues. Do we still, can we work on those issues maybe like individually, or does it need to be in the same pair for that week, or could it be with someone from the other pair from that week? Like, let's just say, like, for example, last week, like Devon and I had like extra time or something, but Shayne and Caitlin didn't. Like, could we approach that issue? Like, kind of how, yeah, I mean, because it's new, I'm just trying to get more information about it.
That's a really good question, and something I would probably turn back to the group. The important thing to me is the pair program. Like that's
the important is
pair.
Pair.
That's where the magic happens, right? But if you're paired up with somebody for the week sort of by default, but like you're saying, like could we treat it a little more dynamically? Say the 2 pairs for the week both finish their issues, and one person from each pair has a little bit of extra capacity. Could they just pair for the rest of the week?
Right. That's what I guess I'm wondering. Yeah.
What do people think about that?
I'd be open to that. I think that's like a good idea, like because it could kind of like take the weight off of, like, if you're having a busy week or whatever, like you kind of did the work that you need to do, but if you need to kind of like sign out a bit, I think that's fine. And then if somebody else has more time and like wants to get a bit more into it or feels more energized that week, like maybe pair with someone else.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, because if it is more dynamic, then it's like, then you can kind of like, it feels like, I mean, I don't know, because it's such a weird time anyways, right? We're in this like very weird moment in history and in like COVID in our lives. And I just think that it's like, maybe it takes a little stress off of our shoulder, or it makes it like more of a choice.
Well, so one thing that, and I think Andrew knows, I was talking to Nakima, and Nakima was in cohort 3, and I know her. And so I was just telling her, that I was in this cohort, and And she was just saying about the team. She was talking about her experience in cohort 3, which of course feels like, you know, for her, and just the thought process was like, you know, 5 years ago. But it's like, yeah, we're one team, and I think that part is important. So I think the dynamic approach is, yeah, especially with Kanban. I think with Scrum, it's, you know, it's like, okay, you have one thing, but if we're gonna be flexible, quite honestly, yeah, we're one team. So if yeah, this is kind of a crazier time. I mean, we've all started during the pandemic and finished our cohorts, but now it's like, oh, it's even crazier. So yeah, if someone's
Like
busy,
directions, possibly more next week, TBD.
yeah, you know,
Like pandemic plus plus.
But
Like, what is
yeah, come Thursday, it's literally like a whole new world in for the United States. But yeah, I think the dynamic approach is what's needed, especially for Kanban. Like, I know I was since this is finishing week 2, like I've been stuck in the Scrum mindset, and so it was like, oh, other issues, what we can do more, like, you know, we're just head down. So yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah.
I think, will we just kind of holler in the channel like, hey, I've got some time this week, we finished our issue, like, is that?
So I just want to check in with Ali and EJ about this, just because the other thing about, you know, if there are more, like say this results in more PRs coming through, and, you know, we're a gating function on PRs getting merged, that means maybe a little more work for us to like be paying attention during the week, and like, you know, PRs could come in at any time. So we just need to be ready for that, as opposed to planning our week that like, oh, Friday, I'm going to work on reviewing PRs and stuff. So are you all okay with that?
I am. I'm good to be here to, at least during the day. I'm good with reviewing PRs whenever.
Yeah, same. I might be more evening, so it might balance out. If Ali's around during the day, I can be around during the evening.
Cool. All right. So I think I was only thinking we were going to solve one problem, but I think we've solved 3 different sort of issues. So there's this issue that sort of draft PRs. You only need to tune in once you're sort of tagged in on Slack. There's the other thing of, we have decided that any one developer and one mentor approval, that's good enough for you to merge. And then this other thing I think is a great adjustment where, yeah, if you're kind of done with the stuff you were doing with your pair and have a little extra time, either with that person or with somebody from the other pair, you can go ahead and keep working.
Yeah, I feel like all of these are kind of making it more dynamic and kind of making it less rigid, which is really fun considering that this feels like new for, I don't know, I feel like for me, maybe if the other developers.
For me.
Yeah. Caitlin, how does it work at your work? I keep asking this question just because I know you're out in the world of work. I'm curious.
Well, I mean, we don't have Kanban, and I guess it doesn't work like this, but like, just because are you talking about retros though specifically?
Well, no, just like, you know, what we're talking about doing seems a lot closer to how a team actually functions in the wild, right? Where like you're probably like, if you're pairing at all, you're pairing off with different people all the time, and you know, PRs can be done at whatever time, and you only need like 1 or 2 people to approve and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we in general don't like pair for a whole ticket. It's more just like pairing on particular parts that are more difficult. And then, yeah, everyone's always like kind of submitting their PRs as they get up, and we have a certain time that ideally your PR would be up for. But again, yeah, with Scrum, it is more of like a, I don't know, rigid structure. But yeah.
Cool. This is great. Love it. I will. I think I linked to the board in the channel, and what I'll do is I'll just, in a thread there, I'll just summarize the 3 decisions that we came to as a team, and we can start working that way. So thanks all for your input. Good job.
Cool. So does that mean we're ready to talk about next week? the coming
I
week?
believe it is. Oh, whoops. I'm gonna screen share just one more second. I was gonna talk about one thing. I know we're
Yeah, you're
already
gonna
over time too, but I just wanted to quickly make you all smaller so I can get to the tab. So we have our board, we have the backlog, we have the board, and then what I want to talk about is our control chart. So this is how a Kanban team measures. I think I went over this when we did the Scrum versus Kanban thing or whatever. We don't have a lot of data yet, so this is going to get more interesting. We'll do this again in 2 weeks, and by then we should have enough data points that it actually maybe makes a little more sense. But what this does tell us, so we have the 3, I think we've completed 3 issues, right? So this is showing everything that has been in progress and in review over the last 2 weeks. So, stuff might sit in selected for development for a while, stuff might sit in done for a long time. So I don't include those, but just these 2 states sort of represent work is being done on things. And what you see is that our average cycle time is 5 days and an hour. So about 5 days. It's only 3 issues, so it's not really even a valid sample set. 2 of the issues are below 5 and 1's above. This light blue line is the standard deviation. Like they're all pretty close. Like it's all pretty consistent, but it's probably each issue is taking longer than what we would ideally want. So that could mean we're going to do next week, we'll do a learning module on story splitting. It could mean that we want to split some stories apart to make them fit into more of around 3-day average. But in any case, again, super early in the project, it's almost meaningless. Like just wanted to kind of get used to the idea of like, we'll share the control chart and talk about it each time we do retro. So. All right.
Cool. So now we're going to talk about what we are going to do this week. Yay, is that the right thing?
Yeah.
Right. All right, so Andrew, you might have to walk me through this a little. What do we need to do?
Yeah, what the goal is to get more of the green guys up into the selected for development. So, and as we move them up, just make sure that the team understands what is expected from each of those stories.
And have we done all of?
Yeah, so this is one thing. We see the little drop down on the right hand side says backlog.
Mm-hmm.
That sucker to done. So we completed our first epic.
Woo-hoo. Nice job.
Good
I
job.
don't know if we want to do this now, but technically the one that we just worked on is done, but I just didn't get a chance to shift it on the board.
Oh, okay. Which one?
The integrate with near me API in progress.
Mm-hmm.
You done?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. We'll go back to our backlog. All right, so that means we've still got render table up here.
And because that's in selected for development, it means we've talked about it as a team before. So people should be clear on it. But if if you have any questions about it, we can spend time with it.
So then what else do we want? Does anybody have any opinions?
I guess
Well, they are sort of
In order.
So
Okay, so this is the and
so let's take a look at that one. Oh, sorry, I meant to change those limits. So I'm gonna bump that limit up to maybe 4 or something, but that's like sort of the max that we would ever do in 1 week, I think. But yeah, if you open up that 21. Maybe just kind of read through it for people.
all right, so as a user, I want to tap on map pins so they can learn more about the place. So our assumptions are that the pins have been rendered to the map, that we will use info windows to display additional detail for each place. Do we have a definition for info windows? Is that just a
info windows? That's a term of art for Google Maps. So it's an actual a thing that they, it's an interface element that they provide.
Okay.
But you can also do custom info windows. So.
Let's see. This is the key interactive functionality of the map. Let's see. And dependencies. Depends on completing 11, which we just did. Yes?
Yeah. 11's done, right? Yeah, should be.
Oh, yeah. And the people who know about this story. Let's see.
Yeah, so there's links there to the Google Maps API documentation for info windows, so you can see how to work with those.
This shouldn't require coordination from the other teams. Like I said, your mentors are here to help you figure out the API if you need it. And then our acceptance criteria. User can tap on a pin on the map to open an info window with the following details about the place: the name, the description, the thumbnail, if there is one, for the place rendered at the largest size possible within the info window, distance of the place from the map center in kilometers, and a link to view the place on Wikipedia. And the links out to Wikipedia should use the page ID that comes back from the API. And then you can just use this format for your link and it will pop up the page. Hopefully we can use a default built-in info window object, but if not, it's possible to build custom info windows, and may actually be preferable for accessibility windows, or accessibility issues. Reasons.
Yeah, and I don't know, EJ, I think you might have done some looking into both pins and info windows. Is that true?
Yeah, I have. There is a bit of code that we can add to make sure that those are improved slightly. There's not much we can do in aftermarket code with ourselves, but I can find the articles I've read about those if we would like to read those together. I can just drop them in the Slack channels.
It might be a good topic for like office hours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, let's see. Oh, and given a user viewing the map view of the app with pins rendered, when the user taps on a pin, an info window should open showing more details. Given a user viewing an info window with more details, when they tap the close X, the info window should close, returning them to the view before they opened the window. Does that make sense? Take them back to where they were. Should be tested on iOS and Android.
Wait, I have a question. Does anyone have an Android?
Yes.
You do? Okay, because all that, I know my partner does, so I can get them to test it as well, but just the work that Caitlin and I did last week has not been tested on Android yet.
Okay.
So it would be helpful maybe if you could look at the Netlify and see if you can add it and if it works the way it's supposed to.
I will do that.
Your tester. If not, I can get Samantha to do it.
And another way to test that is using Browser Stack.
Okay.
You can basically fire up whatever platform or
cool.
device you want. Yeah.
Would you mind dropping a link to that in our Slack?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean, I was thinking that in my head and I haven't said it out loud. So.
Of course. Okay, where were we?
I think you were reading the iOS and Android platform.
Yeah.
And then
it should be tested on iOS and Android, and final validation, obviously develop in the browser, but final validation should take place on a real device.
If possible. I mean, that's ideal.
Yeah. The closest thing you can get to a real device. Just so we know it expects or behaves as expected. Right. Are there any questions about that?
None.
Sounds good.
We get All right. So then let's see, who are our,
We should probably bring a couple more issues into selected too,
yeah.
just in case people do finish early with something.
All right. So just drag the next two up.
Yeah, sure.
while you're-
I think 14 is going to be, that's a pretty big one, but it's we can get started on it whenever. Yeah.
This one, I want to drag the map to a new location so that I can view places for that location. The assumptions are that we have a map and it's able to render pins. A key functionality that provides an element of delight and discovery. Let's see. It depends on story 11 being completed, which is done.
Yep.
And your mentors can help you if you get stuck, but you should start by getting familiar with the events fired during various user interactions with a Google map.
Yeah, that link has a really cool, it has a map set up that has a list of all the possible events. And as you interact with it, you can see them kind of light up, showing like different things that happen. It's pretty slick.
Okay. Whoa, I lost mine. Oh, there it is. Okay. Some of the risk in this story comes from the possibility of stacking up multiple calls to the API, which can lead to unpredictable behavior. This is a good time to ensure that we are only ever making one API call at a time. In other words, we wait for any outstanding API calls to return or timeout before we make the next one. The acceptance criteria is that the user is able to pan the map to a new location, and the map will render pins based on the new map's center. At this point in the project, we do not yet have the user's location, so this story should only use the center of the map as it's set at any given time. Given a user viewing the map, when the user pans the map to a new location, then the app will display places centered on the new location. And again, we should test on iOS and Android if at all possible. And then, is the other one the table? No, we've discussed the table before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah, so we have 4 in there, so that's probably good. I would pull that 21. I would make it the second highest priority though. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, and then we didn't talk about the 14, did we?
That was what I was trying. I knew I missed one.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the one where we render pins based on the user's location, the device location. So the assumptions are that the user has a device and it has location services enabled. This story allows the app to follow the user on a walk or a bike trip as they move around and automatically show new places as their location updates. The story depends on issue or story 11, which again, I think we've already completed. Your mentors can help you get stuck, but you should probably take a look at the geolocation API, which is kind of fun. I've been playing with it, so let me know if you've got any questions. Watching a user's position can be noisy, both initially as the device dials into location accuracy, but also if the user is moving at a high rate of speed, like a moving car. This can cause the app to stack up multiple calls to the API, which can lead to unpredictable behavior, and is a good time to, once again, ensure that we're only making one API call at a time. In other words, we wait for the others to come back or time out before we make the next one. The acceptance criteria is to provide a prompt for the user to share their location. The browser will most likely prompt the user to accept or not sharing of their device if sharing their location with the app. If the user accepts, we use the returned location to set the center of the map. show the user as a dot or other marker on the map, fetch new pins based on the new center, show the user a new prompt to stop sharing their location. We'll handle that one in issue 22. If the user just
And I'll just say, when I say prompt, I mean like a button or something. Like there needs to be a button in the interface. So that could be more clear, I guess.
Okay, there should be a button.
A button or something. I mean, you could be creative, a button or a link or something, some kind of, just some user interface element that they can
If they don't
select.
If they don't accept, we leave the map in whatever its last good state was, and leave the prompt or the button, I presume, leave the button to show their location active. Is that
basically like give them, if they change their mind, let them mash the button again and accept.
All right, we don't need to handle the user stopping location sharing in this story. We'll address that in 22. So real quick, given a user viewing the map, when they choose to share their device location, the map should center on their location and show them pins of nearby places, and same testing criteria. Because we won't have implemented the ability to turn off location sharing yet, you'll need to reload the page to get back into a state where you're prompted to share your device location. Are we all good on that?
Although I think so. I guess if we leave the button in to start sharing, maybe that's not true. I don't know. Maybe that's.
Maybe.
Well, yeah.
We'll see.
Let me know how it goes, and we can update the ticket for future teams.
Does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts? Cool.
So I guess if you do finish whatever you're working on and you're gonna pick up another one, just be really clear in the Slack that you're picking up a new issue, so everyone kind of knows. Yeah,
Right.
it's very quickly going to become a fun little app that you want to have open as you're going on walks in the morning or whatever. Like it's a lot of fun to play around with it.
We're gonna pick who does which one.
Sure. Yeah. So Elliot posted the pairs. The pairs are
there we are.
Shayne and Rachel, right?
Yes.
Shayne and Rachel and
Working with you, Shayne. I have. I mean,
Caitlin and Devon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have an abundance to choose from.
Well, they are in priority order, so the two yellow ones are probably the ones to work on first.
Yep.
Does anyone have a preference?
I have no preference.
Let's see.
I was kind of interested in the info window thing, to be honest.
Okay, you want to do that?
map pens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have our assignment, Caitlin.
Ooh.
I think you can only assign one person right now.
Yeah, you can only assign one.
Yeah.
That you can change or no?
No, that's just how Jira works.
All right. So then we'll assign
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Quite
so-
deep in their data model that
Mm.
a story only can be
To,
one-to-one.
all right.
Cool.
That's nice.
I think I might change. We have that workflow set up in Slack that says, here's your pair and here's your issue for the week, right? But that doesn't really apply to us anymore. So I think I'm going to change the workflow so that anybody, if you are pairing on something, that you can basically just indicate that you and another person are pairing on a particular issue. And it won't reference a time frame. And you can kind of, at any time, like you can just hit that workflow and say, we're picking this thing up. And that's a way to just let people know in Slack that you're moving on to the next issue too. And remember, you can have something in review and then pick up the next thing and have it in progress at the same time. But we have work in progress limits of 2 things in review and 2 things in progress at any one time. So, if we get to the point that there's 2 things already in review and you finish another thing, that means that we as a team need to focus on getting those other things that are in review through to the done state before we kind of move more things into review. If that makes sense.
I also want to say I very much enjoy working with both Caitlin and Devon. The only reason I was excited to change just based on the familiarity. We have our own logo. It wasn't supposed to be offensive.
I'm personally deeply offended.
I'm really here with you again.
I think we all knew, Rachel. It's okay.
Okay.
But thank you for the clarification.
I overthink things, so I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
I think that's our job. All right.
Cool. I think that's probably it. Good job this week. I know, oh man, went over by half an hour, so apologies for that. Not sure what we can do next week to be a little tighter on things, but I know I'll have my learning module ready and try to keep it to, 15 or 20 minutes. So maybe that'll help. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Let us know if you need anything in Slack.
Bye.
Good work, y'all.
Right.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. See ya.
Later.